Hello everyone, it's Elena and I'm back with another video. And today I wanted to talk to you guys about 2 letters that I wrote to myself before I got my final grades in high school. These letters have helped me honestly so much, and so I thought I'd share this now because I think every student should write letters like these to themselves. And you can just write them now because now is usually the time that people take their exams, and you know, when you get your results in a few weeks you can then use these letters. So today I wanted to explain to you guys why I actually decided to write these letters, and then I'm going to read out the one letter that I read because the other letter I actually never opened. So yeah, before we get into the letters, I should explain a bit about my situation and why I ended up deciding to write 2 letters to myself. So almost exactly a year ago, I was doing my final exams and I was still, studying for some of my exams, but I already had done some of them. And I just felt like I had no control over what the outcome would be. I mean, I had worked hard, don't get me wrong. I did study a lot and I used my study leave to the best of my ability, but I just wasn't sure if it was gonna be enough. Now, the reason I felt like that is that I had a conditional offer for the UK. So for those of you guys who don't know, universities in the UK don't just give you a place and they're like, okay, you're admitted, you can come and, attend in October. Instead, they're like, okay, we give you a place, but only on the condition that you get these grades. And sometimes they even tell you in which subjects you have to get these grades and what overall grade you have to get. Now, I was a student who never thought that I would study in the UK. In all honesty, when I started high school, I was very sure that I would go to an American university, and I was very, very set on that. But I remember going to a session with my university guidance counsellor, and she told me, you're so set on studying law, just apply to the UK, because in the UK, law is an undergraduate degree. In the United States, it is not. So you would have to do an undergraduate degree in a different subject if you go to the US. Whereas in the UK, you can actually study what you really want to study. So I ended up applying to a few UK universities for law. And in all honesty, it was quite a surprise to me that I got an offer from Cambridge. But when I opened that offer letter from Cambridge in January 2018, I was shocked. I mean, I guess it's not really a surprise to anybody that the conditional offers for Cambridge are high, but Cambridge had actually raised my conditional offer. So when you apply to the UK, the universities do tell you what the usual or average offer for the course that you're applying at this university is. And the usual offer for Cambridge is a 42, but Cambridge raised my offer and made me have to get a 43. This was more than I was predicted, and in all honesty, I wasn't sure whether I could get these grades because that was a very high target, and it would have been a very high target for any student, and I had never scored that high. But also, in all honesty, this was probably the first time in quite a while that somebody, and in this case the university, told me that you're doing well, but we want you to do better. And I don't mean this to sound like I'm bragging or anything like that, because I really don't want it to sound like that. It's just that I was somebody who scored always in like the higher mark bands because I really put in a lot of work. So very often then people will just tell you, oh, you're fine, you're doing just great, it's cool. So I hardly ever had anybody tell me you should do better. And Cambridge did that. Cambridge was like, okay, you were predicted a 42, which is the usual offer for Cambridge. But why don't you get a 43? And in all honesty, I have no idea why they did that, okay? I don't know what their reasons for raising a conditional offer are. I can only guess, but the thing is, it really challenged me. And it also scared me a lot because a 43, that was huge. And I had no idea how I was going to pull it off, in all honesty. But I was like, well, I don't really know if I want to study in the UK, but I kind of want to know I had that option, because I don't want to look back in 10 years and be like, oh, so I had an offer from Cambridge, but I didn't work hard enough and then I didn't get it. So in a way, this letter was the first time in quite a while that somebody told me, do better, set yourself a higher goal. And that was quite inspiring, but at the time I was scared, and in all honesty, at the time I pretty much hated them for it. And for a few weeks I was like, oh my god, they're so mean, and they knew that I'm never gonna get this, why are they doing this? But then I kind of came to terms with it, and I was like, and you know what, challenge accepted. I'm gonna work really, really hard for the next month, and I'm gonna get this goddamn 43 points. But then I was like, studying and studying, going through my first exams, and then my anxiety started to come back, and I was like, oh my god, like, what if I don't get this? because I had worked for months now, and I'd always, you know, looked back at this offer letter and I was like, this is your goal, you're gonna get these grades. And in all honesty, it wasn't really about the university, because I wasn't very sure whether I wanted to study in the UK. It was just about finally being challenged, and I really liked it, but it was also scary. And you know, that was the point in time when fear started to come back, and I was like, well, how am I gonna feel if I don't get it? Because you have to remember, I had worked for months at this point just for that. And I had missed out on a lot of things in order to work for this. I mean, you have to remember, I went to a boarding school in Hong Kong with people from all over the world. So these last few months in high school were also the last few months that I had with my friends who I had made over the past 2 years. So I missed out on a lot of things, and in all honesty, I'm not proud of missing out on some of the things. But you know, at that point I was like, oh my god, if I don't get it, this will not have been worth it. Like, that would be really bad, and I would probably be very sad. And so I asked myself, okay, so what am I gonna do if I don't get this? I mean, I had an offer for a great university in the US, and you know, I was doing very okay at that point in time, more than okay, to be honest. But you know, when you're in the situation, you get scared easily. At least I do. I'm somebody who just scares easily when things like these happen. And you know, then you imagine all these horrible scenarios. And that's when I decided I'm gonna write myself these 2 letters. So one of these letters is a letter to myself after I met my conditional offer for Cambridge. And then the other letter is a letter to myself after I got rejected from Cambridge. And these 2 letters are letters that I just wrote to myself, and I basically sat myself down in the middle of exams. You know, there was so much going on, and I just took half an hour of my time and I was like, okay, what do you want yourself to know in both these scenarios? Because right now you're in a scenario where both of these things are still very possible, and they are both quite likely and unlikely at the same time. So I basically asked myself, what do you want to tell yourself, like the self you're gonna be in a few months when you're gonna open those final results? And so I basically had a heart-to-heart conversation with myself in these letters. And I only opened one of these letters, and I opened the letter to myself after I got rejected from Cambridge. Now, for those of you who have watched my vlogs, you know that I ended up going to Cambridge, and I never actually got rejected from Cambridge. So why did I read the reject letter instead of the letter for when I met my conditional offer? The reason is that I didn't meet my conditional offer. And so I thought I was rejected when in reality I actually wasn't. So I had a remark, and then a few weeks later I found out that through the remark I had then met my conditional offer, and I ended up accepting this place. But at the time when I opened my final results, I was actually very disappointed. And I had to hide that from a lot of people because, in all honesty, I felt pretty guilty for being disappointed because I still had a very great American university that I could go to, because US universities aren't that strict with their conditions. They basically want you to pass and, you know, still be at your academic standard, but if you drop a few points, that's usually fine. But the UK, those universities are a lot stricter. So at that point in time, I thought Cambridge would never ever take me, and so I opened this letter. And in all honesty, it helped me so much. Having a letter where, you know, I wrote this to myself. I know this is my own opinion. I know this is not, you know, somebody telling me this who can't understand this situation. It helped, and it also put things into perspective. If you guys want to know how disappointed I was when I opened my final results, I actually made a live reaction to my final results, but at that point in time, I didn't want to share that I missed my conditional offer. So a lot of people probably were like, oh my god, she's like, you know, just not happy with really good grades. But there was a very good reason for that. So yeah, if you guys want to see me being disappointed, check out the link in the info box below. But yeah, this letter is the letter that I then took out of my suitcase because I was traveling at the time I got my final results, and I read it. And it mattered. And in all honesty, I'm so glad I wrote it. And now you're probably wondering, what did you write in the letter? It's very personal, but I read through it again today, and I think I'm absolutely fine with sharing it. So yeah, enjoy what my 18-year-old self wrote in the middle of exams. I actually am quite proud because I feel like my handwriting looks pretty good in this. like, hi. It's only one page, but in all honesty, this page mattered so much at that point in time, and I cannot tell you how much it mattered. It just changed my perspective on things, and I'm so glad I wrote this letter to myself, and I took this half an hour of my time to write both of these letters. So yeah, enjoy what my 18-year-old self wrote to myself. Here we go. Dear Elena, you are reading this letter because you didn't meet your conditional offer for Cambridge. True. I know that you're not even sure whether you really wanted to go to Cambridge, but I do know that you really wanted those grades. Very true. Writing this letter, I don't know what your final grades are, but I do know that you will have worked hard for them, because I'm doing that right now. Regardless of whether you got 33 points or 42, I hope you know that you gave it your best. You worked hard over the past 2 years, and you deserve to be proud of yourself for that. Knowing you, I'm guessing that you're probably very disappointed in yourself at the moment. Very true at that point in time. But I hope that you will feel differently about this in a month. And I hope that you will see in a bit that even though you didn't get into Cambridge, you got into Princeton. I hope you're aware that you're doing just fine. So don't let your nerves get the best of you. You got this. And you worked very hard for it. And just because you weren't able to get these grades, please don't think you can't achieve other goals you have. You absolutely can. Failure is part of the process, so embrace it and move on. I'm proud of you. And I think this last sentence, I'm proud of you, that mattered because, oh my god, I'm still getting emotional when I'm reading this letter, but it mattered because I'm somebody who is very harsh on herself and on my own achievements, and I set very, very high goals, and when this university basically made me set an even higher goal, it was something that scared me a lot, but I also worked so hard for it, and when I didn't get it, I felt so disappointed in myself, and you know, I felt like I couldn't be proud of myself. And reading this letter, it just put into perspective the fact that even though maybe I didn't get these grades, I worked really hard for months. You know, I missed out on a lot of things. I just, you know, focused on work, and I worked super hard for this. And having myself tell me that I'm proud of myself, that was something I didn't know I needed to be told until I read it. And I don't know how, you know, 18-year-old me in the middle of exams figured out that this was the sentence she needed to write, but you have no idea how well you wrote this letter. So Elena from the past, thank you so much for this letter. It was really important for me, and that's why I still have it here. And the other letter, well, I have no idea what I wrote in that letter because I never opened it, and I honestly don't remember what I wrote in that letter. But I also don't think it matters. I still have both of these letters because I think they're really good reminders of how to prepare yourself for moments of big decisions like getting your final grades. And I like to look back at these letters because I think writing these letters was a very wise decision of mine. So I'm really grateful that I had that idea because it just helped so much. So yeah, I mean, I did end up going to Cambridge, so I guess in a way I opened the wrong letter. But you know, at that point in time, I was disappointed, and I had written it for that very moment of very raw emotions. And yeah, the letter was the right letter for that point in time, so I'm glad I opened that letter. So yeah, now that you guys know how much these letters matter to me, I hope that I could inspire some of you guys to write yourself 2 letters before you get your final grades this year. And you know, it doesn't have to be about a conditional offer for university. Maybe you just had a particular target of grades that you wanted to hit. Maybe it's just about passing or failing your finals. Whatever it is that you think of when you think about getting your final results, and whatever it is that scares you a little about it, or even a lot, write that down. Okay, make that the condition for which letter you're gonna open. And I can tell you, confronting your fears in a letter, it sounds kind of ridiculous, and I don't know how it helps, but it helps. It helps so much. And the great thing is, before you have these big decisions, you can be very kind to yourself, because at that point in time, you're not disappointed in yourself yet. Or maybe you're not even gonna be disappointed in yourself. Maybe you're gonna be super, super proud because you get those grades, or you know, you get whatever that you wanted to achieve for your finals. But even if it doesn't work out, then you have a letter from yourself that, you know, just tells yourself really good things. Because in moments of disappointment, we tell ourselves really, really horrible things in our mind. And having a letter from yourself that tells you some good things, it does something good for you. So yeah, best of luck to everyone getting their final results. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you found it helpful, and have a nice day. Bye!